Welcome to It's a Controls Problem, where we do precision guesswork based upon unreliable data given to us by those of questionable knowledge. I'm your host, Charles Johnson. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of It's a Controls Problem. I'm your host, Charles Johnson. I'm here with my bestest friend in the whole wide world, Mr. Matthew Vanberg. How are you, sir?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great.
And we're also here with another best buddy of ours, Louis Laurents with BASGFX. Sir, welcome back to the show.
Yes, sir. It's good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So why don't you give us an update here on what you've been working on? Because it's been close to a year since the last time we spoke to you, and we'd like to just kind of get you on and talk about graphics.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot's been going on. Working on new products, trying to get updates out to customers, and we're actually I just hired a guy that used to work for me. So we're going to be getting into turnkey Niagara graphic solutions. So when customers need a good UI in Niagara, and they want a turnkey graphic solutions where they're not paying for this or that, and we just give them a price and build their stations for them.
Oh wow! So they're going to give you the station, and then you're going to build the graphics for them.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Okay. So
that's kind of what's in the pipe. Yeah, that's kind of what's in the pipe for the next 2 months.
Okay. Any real interesting projects come up here more recently?
Not really. Just your typical floor plans, equipment graphics. It's just nonstop. We've actually we've kind of taken off this year. This is so far. I guess the past 6 months have been record months for us business wise. So, yeah, this month, January and February have been our best months ever as far as sales, completed projects. So, yeah, we're getting super busy.
Well, being busy is always good. You really do. You really do a great job in the products that you create, in the products that you support. And you helped me out at a jam. I was like, "Hey, Louis, I'm gonna need you to give me some graphics, and I need to put some stuff together for AHR." And he's like, "I got you, fam." And he gave me some stuff. He's like, "I hope it's acceptable." I'm like, "You gave me free graphics. Yes. Anything that you gave me was acceptable. It could have even just been nothing but stick figures." And I've been like, you know what? I am grateful to have this. And so they actually worked out really well. I will tell you that's the first time I used real graphics like that in an HTML file. So that was kind of fun to figure out how to overlay those.
Were you doing Z-index?
Yep, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do that.
Yeah,
totally familiar with it. Yeah.
Well, for those if you are going to do something like that, like what I recommend people to do is open up a PX page first, right, and actually kind of just build it right there and put like the animations on top, and then.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, you get your pixel placement.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
you get your 0 to 0. Yeah, on your XY axis. Yep.
Yep. Louis also gave me some tips and tricks about creating SVGs when I was working on a project for the company, and I was like, man, I want to try to create some stuff SVG graphics, and so I bought Affinity and started playing with it, and I showed him my first one, and like all I saw in the message was ... I was like.
That was your battery. That was your battery, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Just looked like a Fisher Price block, exactly. And but he taught me a bit about what Niagara likes for SVGs versus what they don't like about
Yeah,
SVGs.
no.
So that was quite useful. Your knowledge in graphics, I think, is almost unparalleled to what you've done in the controls industry for it. So I'm always grateful to use you as a resource. So thank you.
Not all SVGs are created equal when Niagara sees it, because I believe if you look at the modules and you look at the documentation, the last time I checked, it was the SVG 1.0 specification. So
Yep, that's right.
don't embed images, right? That's not
Yep,
going to work. Make sure that there's no fonts in there. Make sure
yep.
everything's converted to curves, and then I tend to use relativized transforms. Yeah, but I mean, and make sure it's got a size. The view box is properly set. Otherwise, it comes in as a green dot.
Yes. That was the big one for me. I was like, why? I'm like, why do I have a dot here? And I don't understand. I'm like, it's 0 by 0. I'm like, no. And like, I go to open it up in Affinity again, and I'm like, all right, it's there. And then I go back in Niagara and see it 0 by 0, and I'm like, I don't understand. And then that's when you're like, hey, idiot, um, set the view box. And I was like,
I save,
oh,
yeah,
okay,
you got to save that preset, right? You can save that preset. So,
yep,
well, the beauty of that program is like when I mock up UIs, I mock them up blockwise in Niagara, basically, kind of like a wire view, right?
mm-hmm.
Where it's just solid labels, of some gaudy color like cyan or something really, really striking. And then, whether it's a header that's 60 pixels by 40 pixels, right? Or whatever, right? 1200 wide by 40 pixels high, 60 pixels high. I'll block that stuff out and then I'll build it in Affinity. And then what ends up happening is I break all that stuff out and I'll export every single asset right into the station folder.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I use a preset like my Niagara SVG preset, it's just instantaneous, and then I have all of my UI assets ready to go to start building, you know, little PX widgets like configurable headers and stuff like that.
So
Point
here's
widgets, callouts.
yeah, here's a question I have. Right. So let's say when you are looking to build a PX page, what is or I guess when you're looking at building Niagara graphics, what is the first thing in your mind that you have set in your system as you're building? Like, meaning, what's your thought process? Like, all right, I need a chiller plant here. What's the first thing that you want to do?
I guess, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do um, is figure out the navigation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The navigation flow. So I'll create a page template. I do use a nav file, but what I end up doing, and there's probably easier ways to do this, I just don't ever have time to dig in. What I'll end up doing is in config, I'll create a navigation folder. And that folder contains all my views. Not equipment views, but every page, like say an alarm page, right? A trends and histories page, and all that jazz, right? A home page, that kind of thing. The dashboards, user manager, whatever the customer, the client requires for the made navigation pages. The only other devices in config that have a graphics view are the actual controllers. And what that allows me to do, I have navigation widgets per page that give you a parent.parent.name kind of breadcrumb trail. So I can just drag this little thing in there, and it has the back button right built in. It has the equipment, the view right, the view's name built in, and it kind of gives you a consistent breadcrumb trail, which you just don't get in vanilla Niagara or just messing around with PX pages. So really, it's my UIs are pretty standardized. The first thing I'm going to do is just build a main navigation, right? Make sure the alarm console's in there. Typically, I get a database that's pretty empty. The first thing I'm going to really do after I figure out the navigation is go through all the file names and get rid of the escape characters if I'm allowed. right?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of bad luck batching that in the program editor.
Mhm.
Um, so I end up just doing find and replace renames, right? Which just
Um,
seems to be faster than fiddling with it.
I think I've got a program object somewhere I'll send you that actually just searches for any escaped character and just gets rid of it. I'll check for you. I think I do.
Yeah. I
Um,
just replace them with underscores just
that's fair.
cause. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's the biggest problem. You never know what you're going to get, you know? Uh, so, and a lot of times, it's already got some kind of UI. So, and if it already has some kind of UI, I'll just take screenshots of every view and
Sure.
delete everything. And I
Do
mean
you,
everything.
what
So,
about um, what if a customer didn't have a particular mindset of a navigation in mind? So let's say you have carte blanche to create the navigation. How do you foresee yourself? Like, what is your vision of like the perfect navigation?
right, really, there is no perfect navigation. I mean, really, is it user friendly, right?
Hmm.
Is it intuitive? I'm just going to use my standard template that I built. And most customers will look on our website and they'll be like, hey, that looks really nice,
Yeah.
Give me something like that, right? And
Yep.
yeah, so I typically leave header navigation for main navigation like homepage, right? I may create an equipment matrix, which is kind of like a component grid, basically.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just a customized component grid using PX widgets and grid panes, just so I have more flexibility than what the component grid or a bound table allows you to do.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll build custom headers and then I'll list all the equipment in a chat interface.
Okay.
Recently, I've started building side navigation, right on the left hand side, like a menu bar, to go with the header and footer navigations that I'm currently using. So I've been doing that a lot lately, where
Yeah,
customers just want that left hand side navigation.
they do. And some people even want like, I mean, obviously it's hard to do in Niagara, like unless you're using like a widget, like a fly out menu, right? Like some people are really kind of like liking that kind of style. I've seen more recently. Um,
Yeah, the issue with that I have is that a lot of the companies that I deal with don't have someone to just modify an HTML file, right?
yeah.
And the issue with that is you're going to be using iframes, right?
Mhm.
Unless I guess you're using that new HTML client interface, right? And then
Yep.
building everything from scratch. That's a lot of components to make. I've done that before. Typically, I just, yeah, it's just an HTML file. And back then I was using Vue, but I've got several examples where they're using Bootstrap and jQuery, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Just to make a side nav, and you can see it's pretty easy. You can see every org,
Yep. That's right.
and you can
That's
say,
right.
"Hey, that's a nested menu."
Yep. Hmm.
All you have to do is copy and paste the org, escape characters and all. But in
That's right.
there, there is Baja injected in that,
Hmm.
right? So you could theoretically make command and control components, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
just get rid of the entire Niagara interface. Me and my buddy Ryan, when we saw that and we started, yeah, testing it with the console, yeah, it was a big eye opening moment where, right, it's just getting anyone trained up to be able to do that. Um, that's, yeah, that's just not doable.
Yeah, I'm working on I'll be working on a video series here soon. Um, about about like just building HTML with CSS, JavaScript, and
Mm-hmm.
Baja script. So, some people are kind of really interested in that, especially because like you're offloading like a lot. You're offloading the engine work and you're putting it in the browser, right? So,
Yeah, you can do a hybrid too,
yep.
right? So,
Hmm.
um, we did a hybrid where we were using HTML side nav,
Hmm.
and we were injecting PX views, right?
Yep. In the main
And those
console.
PX views had responsive panes. As much as a pain as they were, we figured out a really good way to do it so you could still see a full graphic like of a chiller plant, right?
Yeah.
You would have to use your finger if you were on your phone or a tablet to kind of pinch zoom in and out, move around, right? But
Mhm.
we ended up with a card flow, right? Card interfaces, and we had points on cards like set points, alarms, statuses, right, and stuff like that. And of course, as the screens get smaller, the responsive panes, if you get it just right, I mean, they're kind of buggy, but it did work for a mobile view, if that makes any sense. And then having the
Yeah.
side navigation, that was a pretty good way of doing it. But we were doing compiled view apps, right? So we had a build workflow. So really, once we built it, you couldn't modify it because it's mounting a main JS file, and that JS file is minified, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there's no way you're gonna untangle that Vue.js
No, you're
document.
not.
It wouldn't be worth it. You could, right? I'm sure you could. You may be able nowadays. AI wasn't a thing back then. You could probably spit it in AI and say, "Hey, rebuild this Vue.js, turn this into HTML so I can see it," right? But you couldn't recompile it more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, right now, what the like, if you're gonna make a module, it actually makes a minified JS file of your code.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so it'll start to do that. Like when so actually, like if I'm building like in just like, let's say I'm building just straight Niagara graphics, in a PX, kind of like the way that I like to build my navigation is actually I want the customer to actually navigate through the floor plans, right? So like for me, what I'll do is I'll have like a compass, and then they can click on that compass, and then it takes them into like that portion of the building. And then
Gotcha,
from
gotcha.
there,
I put a key, right?
yep,
So I'll
mhm,
put a key, right? So it's the floor plan's really small,
yep,
right? And then I'll do my mouse over bindings, and when you hover over it, it glows, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to go to area C. And sometimes, like if you can go left, I'll put a little arrow to the left, right? It just
yep.
depends.
So I think you're coming out with a newer package here very soon, right? I think we spoke about that at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, my air system library, right?
Yep.
Ductwork library. So it's kind of a hybrid of two products. One was a kind of a daydream where, because typically, like in Niagara or some of our other competitors that have been selling these libraries for a while, you basically build your air handlers and rooftops, right? Fan powered boxes, just about anything air source or water source for that matter. Little libraries, little ductwork pieces, right? And you slap them together. Um, I was doing some brainstorming of making a product, a modular AHU where you just snap the pieces together, right? And they're all pre-built. So if you needed, say, um, FreeStat, right? Or
Yep.
you needed, say, a high static, and it needed to be right after the coil, or for that matter, right after or before the air handler, before the
Hmm.
fan section. Basically, like a train climate changer or something like that. These modular
Yeah.
HUs, and they're just pre-built, and you could snap these sections together, right? So it's a filter section. You snap it together. It comes with its own DP sensor, right? With
Yep.
state, right? Yeah. And then I was like, what if I did a hybrid of that product with the ductwork? And I started doing tests for that, and customers are like, "Oh, I can't wait for that." So yeah, that's the next big product. I was hoping to get it out in the next couple months, and with this new guy starting, Zach, it's gonna be amazing because yeah, I work with this guy for 3 years, so he knows exactly what I expect, right?
Well, I think that's
He's
great.
absolutely on the same page. So, and not only that, um, he can also help me QA QC because I'm just treading water here. If that makes any
Well,
sense.
but the thing is having someone you trust, right? Like that they know you, they know your system. Um, so that onboarding process actually doesn't take as much time, as it would like if you had someone that you knew nothing about, right? Like that you brought in, you interviewed here, but now here you know the guy, and
Yeah,
so like now you can become even more productive, and especially since they can help you lighten the load on some of the things that you were working on, but now they can work on. It
Yeah,
frees you up for more to
absolutely.
be more creative.
We will
Um,
have a station online for customers to go over and have a look at
oh,
the UI. Yeah, definitely. And
okay.
all of our graphics are going to be on it. That's in the works too. So,
I've got one question for you, and then I'd like to go ahead and kind of do some screen share stuff. And I've got some things about that maybe that you can actually show some people too that I think. Um, when it comes to animations, I know that like a lot of your stuff that you use, obviously is PNG and not SVG. Um, like if you wanted to somehow take some of your stuff that you do and make it an SVG, what do you have to change fundamentally?
wow, that's difficult. That's difficult. In 3D, and it depends on. I guess it depends on your DCC, your what you're authoring these files in, whether it can export to SVG or not, and how it does that. Blender, it's problematic. You can export to SVG. However, it will wipe out all the colors.
Okay.
Um, Now, I've done some tests with floor plans where I've taken floor plans and exported them as SVG. And the issue I have is that I have to mark every line that I want to stroke.
Okay.
So, for instance, if I have a perpendicular wall, right, or a perpendicular shape intersecting another shape, I'm going to have to go in and mark all the lines that I want to see.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. And the issue with that is how do you animate something that's already in 3D? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you could do it, but you would have to render every frame. Um, it would be difficult because, like I said, every single edge that you want to see, you're going to have to mark that as I guess what they call it, freestyle. I forget what Blender calls it,
Hmm.
but and it can be done, but um, the issue with that animation is you're not going to be able to animate that. You'll have frames, and I guess if you get into it without CSS, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're not going to be able to use CSS, sort of, right? You can get in the SVG and do some animation tags, and it is compatible with Niagara.
Hmm.
You would have to kind of do a slideshow. You basically have to build a GIF. So one SVG would have, say it was a fan animation, right? And you
Yep.
had 5 frames to make this fan animation, 0 through 4 or 1 through 5. You would have to show and hide it, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
code inside
Yep.
the SVG. And that's not a big deal, right? Because number one, it's not 2D and it's projected in perspective, right?
Yep.
So it's not like I can say, hey, rotate this 360 degrees over this amount of time, right? In the
Yep.
SVG's code. That's not going to happen because it's going to, number one, it's going to spin on the top left hand corner. If I divide that in half and I'm rotating around the center, right?
Right.
Right, by the pixel size of whatever the dimensions of what I exported is, you can't just spin it in a circle because you're not looking straight at it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
If
It
that
makes
makes any
sense.
sense. Yeah, because it's, the cheap way to do it is to just show it front on.
Right.
Right? Right? With an orthographic camera, if I want to put it at an angle, but that way there's no depth perception, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, as it spins, you'll go ahead and see it rotate 360 degrees, and then you could get away with one image, right, of say a fan animation, um, and that would work. But the only way I would see to do that, and it would take forever. Um, uh, let's just say my models are high poly. I don't spend a lot of time cleaning that stuff up. I just spend, I don't have time, right? So I'm going to bang this thing out. And it's going to have a lot of faces and triangles and stuff. You wouldn't want to run it in Unreal Engine or a game engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't bake any textures. I rarely what we call UVW map, and that's to actually take a texture and say, hey, you're going to sit on this face, and this texture is going to sit on that face. I typically use shaders, right? Which one steel shader, and it works for all my steel, right?
Yep.
And that kind
Yeah.
of thing. I'll have variations of it, but I typically I have to move fast, right? To be profitable, I can't spend 3 days on a chiller, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think like even sometimes with SVGs, what could also be difficult too, right? Is like as you know, and some people that listen to our show may know, one thing that an SVG can do, especially like if you're creating like an interface like I have, you can actually inject the color into an SVG.
Absolutely, and that SVG has to be in line in the HTML, and then you have the power of JavaScript to do whatever you want. There's a really interesting book, SVG Animation by Sarah Drasner. And if you ever look her up on YouTube, she's built entire websites inside SVG.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the stuff that she does.
So I tell you what, let's go ahead and kind of get into into some screen sharing here, and maybe I know that there may not be a lot to do from the, let's say, from the Blender side. Maybe could we show, I don't know if you have, like, if you were working on like the demo site for Niagara, but maybe we could show people like how to bring in like some of your PNGs and maybe animations maybe in.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Is that
Let's
something we
see.
could do? Okay.
Let's fire this workbench up here.
Matthew, you good with that, buddy?
Oh, I'm more than good with that.
Ooh. There's an HTML file in here.
Hello, world. There we go.
I was just curious. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is just a playground.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean that works. I mean that works here too. So what when you create your PX pages, what do you feel is the optimal PX page size for you?
Man, that's hard to say. I typically go with a 16:9 ratio. I'm doing on some of my templates. I'm doing pretty much 1900. I forget. It's 1900 by at least 900.
Okay.
Or 1000, something like that. I think it's 1900 by 1000.
Okay.
And 80.
The reason why I don't do 1920 by 1080, you have a browser with a header, right, and a footer, and then whatever else you've got, right? And a lot of people are using Microsoft Edge, and Microsoft Edge just has a bunch of stuff on it, right? So it ends up shrinking. And I typically do fit to ratio. I can't stand fit on a PX page because it just stretches and distorts everything, and it just looks bad. So I'm constantly using fit to ratio. So when I'm using fit to ratio, there's going to be some caveats. So you're never, and it doesn't matter what you do if you're going to use fit to ratio. This is PX. It's old, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Develop a web app or build it in HTML. That's the only way you're going to get around it. But your PX pages, right? Even if you embed them, they're still going to be at either fit to ratio, fit width, zoom width, right? Whatever. You're gonna lose something. So I typically just fit to ratio and embed it, and just make sure all the colors work, right?
Yep, that's right.
All right. So let's open this up. Let's delete all these. What have I got in here? Ooh, this is old, probably. Nope, that's actually new. So here's a VAB. So typically, man, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer called layout. And this is what I use to lock like a header, footers, any side navigation, and make sure it can't be moved. Because then you can right click, right?
Yep.
I'll create a graphic layer, and I'll make sure, say this is the graphic that I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's on that layer, and then I'm going to lock it. And what that allows me to do is not be able to select it when I click or right click, and now I can create labels and do whatever I want on it, right? Mm-hmm. Let's create a new folder. We'll call it baby. We'll do a numeric writable. We'll call this damper position. That's all we got for this one. Well, we also have heat here, so we'll do that later. All right. So, a lot of customers, this is, I hate doing this just like the next person. what I really loathe doing is mapping 0 to 100 states in Niagara. I can't stand it.
Yep.
I cannot stand it. I don't know why. So the first thing I'm going to do, a lot of people will sit here and or they'll shift and that's an issue. You can't see what you're doing, right? And they'll hold control down and they'll move it, right? Until they get it to the proper position. I'll get it close and then I'll delete it and undo it, right?
Yep.
This has actually got an error. That should be closed by default. But this is an old, like I said, this station, I have, this graphic here. In fact, let's just replace this. We're going to normal that. Let's delete this. We're going to
Well,
go
it's
ahead.
probably like your 100.
This was the first one, right? So it's just testing
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go into standalones here. It's not going to be in here. Let's go back to my network. Let's go into libraries.
And while you're doing that, I agree with doing fit to ratio. I teach people that. I really do like the fact that you create layers to lock in like headers and floor. Like I do it for floor plans all the time, right? Like
Absolutely, Coward. You can't
yep.
right click on anything. You keep selecting it. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a must.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And PX properties is also really an underutilized function too. Like, so if you're creating a bunch of labels, right? Like you can use PX properties and like create like a custom font for like header 1, header 2, header 3, and then
you know what I use those for? I use those for ords. I use them for strings. I use them for PX widgets, and we can go over that. Yeah, if you want.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Let's paste this in here. This may take a second. In fact, let's see. I'm in 4.13. Let's go. Let's open one of them. There's nothing in there. Yeah, 4.12. Everything I've been doing lately is in 4.14 or 4.15.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, there's a lot of changes in 4.15.
Oh my God. Yeah. So customers are sending me stations without passphrases.
Yep.
Yeah. So they can't do a station copy. It'll wipe all the users.
Yes, that's right. And then all of a sudden you got to go in and add them again.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but you can't use the same password. That's going to aggravate them.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's an issue, right? Another thing too is, originally when you broke a bog on the passphrase, you just lost a Niagara network password or any email passwords, but now it's everything. Yeah. That's unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. I think that came from, I think that there came some, yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I think I read that somewhere. Because the first thing I noticed was the change in the passphrase dialogue, right? And I was like, oh, what? And then all the users were faulted. You're talking about, 20 users. Yeah, so I had to, and these guys, they're good database guys, but they just don't know PX, right? So what ended up happening is the way I build my stations, everything's in a file and config as far as navigation. So there's no hard ords. All the hard ords are in those folders that are in config, right? As views under PX properties. So what ended up happening is all we had to do was copy and paste all the files, right? Copy and paste the folders that needed to be in config from from user home, and then do a batch, right? On the database and add all the PX views. And it took 45 minutes for walking through it. And I've been having to I think I've done that 3 times in the past month, where I build a station and we can't do a station copy because of 4.15. And then another thing too is most people don't pay attention when they install Niagara that you can set for the first time, it asks you, right, what you want the passphrase to be for your workbench. And no one remembers what that is.
Yeah, you can change it there's a registry key.
Yeah, that's what I had to do. The registry key. Yep. I think it's the only registry key in there for Niagara.
I think so.
It's one of the only ones. Yeah, that's what I did. Now I'm going to make sure that anyone that works for me that has a workbench, we're all using the same one. Because I
Yes,
think it was
absolutely.
using my user name for Windows. I think that's what it was doing. Yeah, this is going to take a second. Sorry about this, guys. I didn't actually think we were going to do Niagara. I'd have found the latest station.
No, it's okay. As a matter of fact, I kind of like I was thinking about it, and I was like, I know that we showed people how to do some 3D stuff before, but I thought it would be kind of a nice segue to like show people like, hey, here's how you bring in Lewis's stuff into Niagara. So, it's not a big deal at all.
And there's some workflow tricks too. And I'll kind of show you guys how I line stuff up. It's a whole lot faster. And especially once you get a customer in front of it and the fan turns on and you'll see the image move and you'll know
Yep.
you're not right. You're not lined up. So I go through a process where I delete and undo repeatedly until it stops jumping.
Yeah, it would actually be interesting. Like, I wish there was like a widget that like you could then like drag and drop like your images in, right? And then like you like for having like how you have like your numeric image and you bring that in, and then like from there instead of like you creating your creating your ranges immediately and then trying to path it, like you just bring in the images and then it will set up
It'll
the
automatically
maximum.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I used to do, of course, 0 through 10, right?
Yep.
0 being closed, say, for instance, on a damper valve. And then we go all the way up to 100% fully open or fully closed, depending on what it is. I used to do 10 as 10%, but from 0 to 10, it's closed. So I had a
Yep.
customer say, hey, it's 5%. Why is it closed? So I ended up doing 0 to 1. So if it's higher than 1, it's 10%. And then the last one, instead of that being, 100, it's 90 to 100. So I stagger them, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
And then that way, any value over 1. And that beats me because back then, I used to, for all my customers, I would render a 5%, an extra 5% state. Just
Oh,
so they
okay.
could,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, why am I doing that? And it just complicated my workflow, especially back then because I couldn't save, I couldn't save my render regions, right? These little regions that I was throwing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No wonder. We're going to stop this.
Oh, I see. You're copying the Blender files too.
Yeah, that's hundreds of megabytes. Yeah, this is what I should have done from the beginning.
Nope, it's okay. It's all
Shared
good.
images.
Matthew is the editing master. So
All right. So what I'm going to do, let's just pick, we'll pick 2-stage heat. Drop
okay.
in this manpower box.
Sweet.
All right. Set up our layer. It's locked. Go ahead and lock this guy down. All right. Can't move it. So let's copy this guy. And we'll grab our damper. And I'm going to we'll just grab 0. What I'm going to do is just kind of get it close. Hold control down and delete it. See how it jumped? Undo.
Yep.
Delete. Undo. There it is. Ooh, one more. There we go.
There
Delete,
you go.
undo, delete, undo. It doesn't jump. And that's kind of how I do it. And then I'm going to go lock that down because I don't want to move it. So we'll go ahead. Well, first, before I do that, let's go ahead and add our binding. I would relativize it now, but we won't do that. We don't have a view for it yet. We can always do that later. And then we'll go animate this. And this is the aggravating part. I really, really love doing this. So I'll just copy this, right? And then add a bunch. And then I'm going to paste this, and then just say 10, right?
Yep.
And there's no getting around it. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a module that just said, hey, I'm going to, this is a numeric. Yes. Give me 10 and just create these and then do an arbitrary min max and let me just go set them. Right.
Yep.
That would, oh, whoops. Let's do 0, delete 4. All right. Probably run out. Yeah, this, I hate this. I think I did 5 already. Yeah. Well, with a passion. But this is what you do this over and over and over. And, after, 200 stations, yeah, you just kind of autopilot, right?
I thought about this, Louis. When I was looking at the how normally like that little icon in the after the value in the right, the top right. I was like, oh man, is that a way to import? I'm like, oh no, that just resets the field. That just resets the
Yeah. So see 0, I'm going to do 0 to 1%, right? But 1, and then these are offsets. So 20 is really 10, right?
Yep.
Oops. 80. Yep. 100. Oops.
Yeah, if you delete if you remove the final
yeah,
one,
my bad. Yeah, my bad. I added too many. Remove. All right. All right. And then that's done. So we'll go ahead and lock that guy. Oops. No, it would have worked anyway. All right. Actions. Let's set this to 50%. And there it is. Actions, set this to 100%.
There you go.
And then we'll set this, we'll leave it there. So heat. So this is 2-stage heat. So I'll pick my 2-stage first stage. And these are pretty simple. So what I'm going to do, let's create new Boolean writable, and we'll call it heat. Oops.
While you're typing that out, one thing that I appreciate that you did that I think a lot of people would not have thought about is they would have actually gone to Kit PX and they would have brought in like a numeric image and then do it that way. Whereas you
that takes forever. Yeah.
Where you brought it in and then you added a value binding and animated.
I just copy it. I'm constantly scrolling, copying, looking at points, and then copying what I need, and then coming down to my images. Right. Yeah, and working that way. I can't stand going through menus, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
When I drag this image out, it's kind of ready to go. I just need a label. I don't need a bound label. I don't need anything. I just need a simple label. I don't need a picture widget. Picture widgets cost, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they do cost. So bound label, it costs. And especially if you're using a bound label, there's kind of no point. You're going to bind it anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I just a standard label. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab 100 out so we can see it. And let's zoom in a little bit. So that being said, we've got that. We're just going to leave that there for now. We're going to grab 2-stage second heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to grab that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to copy that layout. These are identical. They lay over the top of each other, so I can just paste this in here, right? And now I have both stages. And important, pay attention to your widget tree. Not many people pay too much attention to their widget tree. It's a lot easier to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And we'll animate this. Let's see. This is 100 for false. Nope. So we're just I'm not gonna do an off state. There's no point.
Yeah.
If you want, sure, but the less images that load, especially if this is on a JS, the better. Not a lot of BAS systems allow you to null the false value. I do include off states, but they're kind of not needed in Niagara, which is nice.
Yep.
And, I didn't think about that when I started a lot of this stuff, and a lot of my old stuff don't have off states because I just, I'm a Niagara guy. That's second stage, and we'll go animate that and just delete that false value. And then now we got that, so we can get out of edit mode. And then actions set and make that true. And we can actually, let's go ahead and turn this one on and then turn the first one off. So these are masked. So you can see both states no matter what. And we'll do a Boolean. And grab our fan on. Oops. Perfect. And then we'll animate that. And then that completes this graphic. I think I have a dirty filter. Yeah, I do, but they typically don't.
Yeah,
actually.
Filter. There you go. Filter status off of the VAV.
Yeah, but what you could do, you can laugh, but you can go ahead and create a maintenance schedule. And if the maintenance schedule is change your filters, right? Because they're supposed to change them, and they're supposed to change them in the fall, right? Every year. Because now I don't know how many times I've crawled up in there, right, and found that thing sucked up into the right. Well, and this is a series fan card box, so yeah.
Yep.
Found that thing sucked up into there. So let's action state active. Let's just make that permanent.
There we go.
So widgets, right? Like these points, how am I going to command them? That kind of thing. We'll go ahead and let's do on off. And then in here we'll go, save it. Do that. Save it. And then we'll do that. And then here we'll just do percentage. And I got a question.
Yep.
In facets, and customers ask me this quite a bit. They're like, I don't know where to go. Is there any documentation to see what's inside capacitance, density, right, electric current, and all that stuff? Is there any documentation that actually shows them what's in some of this stuff? Because to me, it's intuitive, right? I already know because I've just been messing with this since, 2015. It's not intuitive to everyone.
So in the C, so if you go to your C drive, your Niagara directory, then I think it's under defaults. Then I think there is a unit. Then I think there's a units.xml.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig that up and probably print it out or format it in a way they can read it. And just be like,
I mean, you could use ChatGPT. You could use ChatGPT to say, "Hey, take this XML and put it into a spreadsheet or something."
You just hurt my feelings. I'm in art, right? So it's shaking up the art world quite a bit, and right. I mean, customers are for site renders they're using ChatGPT or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To build some of these campus renderings. In the end, it hallucinates, and customers are like, "No, that's not right." And you can prompt it and prompt it and prompt it, and you just keep getting a different thing every time, and it's just not right. And then they end up, paying to do it anyway, right?
Yep. No, that's absolutely right.
For now, right?
Correct.
Let's create a couple of set points. So we'll say this is awk cool set point. And then we'll say, oops, I spelled that wrong. Let's do heat. Let's rename that. So now we have a few widgets that we're going to put on that graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever that graphic went, there it is. Nope. There it is. All right.
Oh,
so we're going to create.
There.
Yeah. So let's create some widgets. So I'm going to. Whoa. Okay, so we'll just create a new one. So what I'm going to do, I'm basically going to create. In fact, let's highlight all this stuff that happens to be there. And let's make sure that that's on graphic. Good deal. All right. So we're going to make a label, and it's going to be readable, hopefully. So that's what, 40 by, let's see, 300. We'll just go with that, right? So new px file, and we'll say read only point. All right. So we're going to do this 300 by 40. Let's get rid of that. All right. And normally I'll use an SVG, right, as a background or what have you, so I can get some rounded rectangles and stuff. In fact, we're just going to delete that. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the scroll pane on a PX include. Especially any PX include that I use, I remove the scroll pane and paste back the canvas, right?
Yep.
So I'll cut the canvas and paste it back in here because this is really all I need. We'll go ahead and give this let's just pick something dark, right? Just for giggles.
Yeah.
Everything. Oh, and I will set the scale factor to be twice as large. Some people may want their point widget larger, and then you don't want to have to deal, right? And this is another thing too. You could PX property till you're blue in the face, right? But if you're dragging bound labels and labels out, right, out dot values and just standard labels, like you were dragging points out, you have no consistency, right? And then you've got to sit there and and highlight that stuff and move it around your PX, right? And that can be a pain. Especially if in the end, you're doing owner training and the guy's like, hey, or the lady's like, hey, those points are too small. Can you make the font larger? And then now you've got to reorder every single little tiny label, right? And that can be a pain. So we're just going to make this semi-white, and then we're going to go foreground. And I'll expose these real quick too, as well, right? As PX properties. And then let's see, we'll just leave this alone. And then what we'll do, we'll add a variable. So I'm going to do $, and we'll just call this ord. And this can be anything, right? Everyone knows that. This could be Bob, blue, green, yellow, Matthew.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. We're going to animate that, and we're going to call this display.
It's my favorite color.
Display name. And in here, we're going to do the same thing. And then here, we're going to do the same ord, right? The same one. We don't need multiple variables for this. And there's some caveats to doing multiple variables and doing a drag and drop operation.
That's right.
You will lose your other variables. So you may want to just drag this out and start pasting stuff vanilla if you're going to have multiple variables. Because Niagara will get rid of it. All right.
Yep, I agree.
Animate. And then here we're going to do out.value, right? All right. There we go. And this is read only. So what we're going to do is we're going to false set pop-up enabled, and we're going to do that here, or just drag a label and cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
False that. All right. So there we go. So if we come back to our VAV and we go to our points, we can say, okay, my damper position is read only. Let's drag that out. We're going to include PX file. Come in here, find our, where did I put that?
Widgets,
I
right?
put it in widgets. Yep. And then writable or read only point. That's it. Select the ord and press OK. And then there she comes in. So let's fix it up. Let's get our PX properties in here and let's add a font.
Oh, Fonty was great. I like that. Let me add a little Fonty. Yep.
That's right. All right. We'll just make this 18. We'll say Tahoma. We'll play it safe. We'll make it bold just for giggles. We'll go ahead and add title color. Oops.
Yeah, make it GX color. Yeah.
I'll do a brush. Yeah, brush is, I think, better. All right.
Could you explain the difference between a brush and a color for someone?
I think brushes can be strokes as well. I mean, yes. You'd be able to say it, right? Yep. Brush can be a stroke as well. I think a color cannot be a stroke.
Correct.
So I just use brush because I can use it for anything. I typically I just pick brush just by default. We could change background colors, right? All this stuff. And here's one thing. Let's go ahead and get rid of this text. We'll unanimate that and we'll get rid of this because a lot of times you're not going to have a display name and no one goes in and display names them unless they've got a boss like me that forces them to display name everything, right? With a Baja name map or something in the program editor. So what I typically do is I'll go ahead and we'll go into Baja itself instead of GX, and we'll just get a string writable, right? Or a string point, not a string writable. And then we'll just call this label, right? And then now we can link that text to that label.
Yep, that's right.
And then we can also, so the title color is going to be this guy. And the font. And then we're going to make this white. And we're going to call this custom just to give it a default value, see what it looks like. We'll leave it centered for now. This guy, we're just going to do the same font and leave the color alone. But you can totally go crazy with this stuff, right? Now, there is a caveat. This may or may not work. And in the past, I guess 4.12, 4.10, somewhere around there, we were messing around with virtuals instead of, instead of doing joins.
Yep.
And virtuals were amazing, you know, especially with schedules, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, you don't have to do a schedule import, right? You can just go right down to the JS, change a schedule, and it's immediate, right? I don't think PX properties from PX includes will come in on virtuals. I know they didn't back then. I don't know if they fixed it.
I don't think they do now.
Yeah, so there are caveats to using this, and I think that's really the only one. So something to be aware of. And another thing about PX includes is it stores the data that was originally on this PX include, but notice it actually came in. Yep. There is custom in here, but notice it still has damper position on there and it shouldn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that and bring it back in. Let's see here, widgets, and then read only point, and select that guy. And then there we go. So now I can just come in here and I can change the color to purple. Which is nice, right? So you can make these reusable widgets, and these are configurable per page, right? So if you make one change, it's only on this PX page. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then we could say this is, we'll just say position. Let's see if that'll fit. And it does fit. And if it doesn't fit, we brought the font in. So we could say, that's a little too big. Let's just make that 16. And then bam. And that works. Another thing too, is if we bring in, say, damper position again, well, that's actually not doing it. That's interesting. What if I did something like that? It's still not doing it. I was going to show a bug, but it's not remembering that PX include was added.
Remember, no bugs, only features.
Niagara's got a lot of bugs, lots of features, and we can make writable points. Right? There's a lot of things you can do. You can create set buttons and action buttons, and then the beauty of something like this is you can just drag all your read only points, for instance. You can drag them all in. And do these. And I do these for call outs on floor plans, right? So I'll just drag them all out in one fell swoop, all the fan powered boxes for that floor, maybe in chunks of 5 or 10, right? So they fit on my screen when I drag them in. But that allows me to just, bring all these in immediately. And they all have custom names. So
yeah,
the one thing that kind of sucks about PX includes is you can't relativize that. So everything has to be manually relativized, right? You're going to have to come in here and type slot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fast enough. It doesn't bother me that bad. Just the fact that I can format stuff, and reuse these things over and over and over again for consistent UI, right? Yeah. And that's really the only way to do a consistent UI. I would just be careful because you can get kind of carried away with PX includes, and the whole graphic can be a PX include where you double click this and this becomes an ORD. So we could unanimate all this stuff. Let's see, how big is this? This is, let's just copy it, 652. And let's make this, I don't remember what it was, 1007. Which is a weird number.
It is the perfect number.
Odd and even. Okay. Let's get out of Zoom. Let's grab everything in here. There we go. All right, we're going to cut this, delete that, and paste this. And we could make this reusable, right? Now you could, and if you've got points, right? And if you've got a point naming convention that you stick to, that's super important. If you're going to make a reusable graphic, that this can be dragged and dropped into any PX view, right?
Yep.
And then just start working with just a couple clicks. What we can do is in the PX properties here, we can just do an ord. So we're doing a string here. Let's switch that to an ord, and then we can say fan status, right?
Yep.
And then we can add another one, and we can say damper position. And then we can add heat 1. And then add another one, heat 2. And that automatically does it. All right, so there we go. And then now we can just right-click and link that to heat 2. Yep. And then right-click and link. Oops. Where'd it go? Did I break that? Yes, I did. Let's copy that for now.
You featured it.
Yes, I did. All right, let's just paste some words in there so we have something. We'll grab our damper position. Niagara can be funny like that. Sometimes you actually have to give it some data or it'll get goofy on you.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
In certain circumstances, it will, especially if you're doing strange bindings. Okay, so it's actually showing heat 2 now. All right, so let's see here. Stage 1, this is stage 2. Yep, so we're going to say this is that right? Yeah, this is going to be stage 2. All right. And then we'll link this to 2. And then go back to the first one. That's linked. And then fan.
Probably want the heat 2 in the PX properties to be heat 2 as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to delete those.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it works because Niagara gets goofy. So this is fan command. Let's link that to fan status. And then this is our damper position. Let's link that to damper position. And then we're going to go ahead and kill all these. First, I'm going to save it.
Yep. Save early, save often.
Yes. And then we're just going to null these guys. And then we're going to save this. And then we'll create a whole new PX view. And we'll make this larger. So new PX file, and we'll call this fan powered box S for series. And then we can make this large. We can do 1600 by say 900, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then grab this guy and stuff him in here. Let's rename that. And then there we go. So now when we double click this, it just asks us for our ords. And all we have to do is copy and paste this stuff in there. So damper position, double click. We'll do damper position, and then we'll just paste this in here. This is fan status. So FAM status. Heat stage 1.
You probably want to change that to fan status too.
Oh, fan command. Whoops.
Yep.
And let's see. let's just copy this. There we go. So now if we edit this and we actions, emergency active or fan, that should theoretically work. Didn't work. Typical. Oh, I know why. It's because I have a variable in there.
Yep.
Let me fix that. So, oops. Where's the include? There it is. All right. It didn't link it. And that happens. Fan status. There we go. Yeah, the links broke. I don't know why that happens. Do you know why that happens?
I don't know. I'd have to play with that one. I've got to play with that a little bit because that should have kept it. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one. But
It's
it won't
actually
be.
too.
It'll but it won't take long to figure that part out.
And then link this again. It's probably because I deleted the values. Probably wiped them out.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep, it's probably what happened. Let's save that. And then there we go.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, and if we slot this, right, and this becomes a view of that fan powered box, so we can copy that to view, new view, call it a graphic, that's fine. And then we'll just paste this guy in there or to use it. Now these hard ords can go away. We can just slot this, right?
Yep.
I probably could have just found and replaced in the bound ords, but it is what it is. There we go. And then there we go. This is reusable. You can drag it in there, and it doesn't matter what your point names are, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people don't do this. And the cool thing about this is this can be resized, right? So if we come in here and they're like, wow, can you re-render this, right? It's too small. This is a PX include. So we could say this can get twice as big and default 50% is small. Let's save it. And we'll come back in here, get out of edit mode. There it is. And then, say that this is taking up too much real estate. Well, we can make that smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to mess with animations. Everything's still there, right? We can turn our heat on. This is pretty powerful, and a lot of people should be. I linked both of them. Yep. Let's make that stage 2. There we go. Is that what I did? Stage 2, stage 2. Yeah. All right. And it is on. All right. Good deal. And you can make this as big as it'll allow you to make it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the power of PX includes. And I think people should be using PX includes quite a bit, especially if you're not using Reflow, right, or some other front end add-on for Niagara to make Niagara more palatable and more modern. And you're messing around with PXs. You should be making a library of reusable PX widgets for your point name / point value. It can be as simple as what a point looks like when you drag this in here, and right, you do your bound label with your out value and your display name. Typically, make that a PX include, cut that, right? Create a new file, paste that in there, and then that way you can grab all your read-only points or all your writable points and drag them all in here. Pick that PX file, and you're done. And you don't have to worry about, I have to move this around. And I think that it just workflow wise, adding variables to your PX includes. You don't have to do PX properties, but you see how powerful you can make it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good. No, I think that right there, thank you for showing that, because it's not something that that people talk about a whole lot.
It's in the manual.
Yep. Oh, well, agreed. But but you have to understand that, like, well, I mean, I know that you understand, but sometimes reading stuff, but like taking the time to understand that part, sometimes it rarely happens that way.
Well, I didn't know, and I didn't read it. I found it on a site, and I was like, my boss called me. He's like, "How did they do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know," you know. And we ended up we ended up staying up to like 11 on the phone, me on my station, him on his, right? And they were doing these variables, and we were like, I don't know how they did this, and I think I pulled the 3.7 AX graphics manual out, and I looked up variable because I saw the variable field was filled out, and I just didn't understand the before and after, right? What was going on. And I looked up variable, and sure enough, there it was, how to do it. I was like, I got it. And I've been using them ever since, right? You see something like that, and if you're really creative, you're gonna realize, oh, I could do this, right? I could do that. Yeah, I could make these reusable. And then after 3 or 4 stations, you'll get your workflow down, and your station building will double, right?
Yeah,
the speed in which you build stations will double.
Yep.
You just need to become like a point ninja and beat people over the head when they've got escape characters and stuff, because that will bite you.
you tell me how you feel about escape characters. Tell me how you feel about it.
I'm going to make a shirt and I'm going to send it to you with what you told me. I'm not going to say it on air, but yeah, what That's you fair. Said in chat. Yeah, that was awesome. That needs to be a t-shirt and a coffee mug, sir. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm going to make that.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Well, sir, I think we've got all that. I think we've got everything that we need. I think this was really, really good. Not only does it showcase some of your stuff there, it also reinforces what people can do in Niagara. And I think you actually showed some tips and tricks that people genuinely did not know. And some of those that actually we don't really teach because it's not.
You guys don't have time. I mean, you think about it. You don't have time in a Niagara class. I mean, you crunch, and graphics is last.
Yep.
Yeah, graphics is like last, and there's not enough time to do it. There really needs to be an advanced Niagara graphics training, right?
Working on that, really, sir.
Yeah, there really needs to be. I've had customers reach out and ask, hey, are you going to do something like that? And we're thinking about at least doing something like that for our customers, right? To just show what you can do, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And especially, selling Niagara templates or templated UIs and front ends. This workflow that I use is developed over, almost 20 years, 15 years or so. So what makes sense to me does not make sense to a layman, or not necessarily someone with a lot of experience with Niagara. They may want to do things their own way. So my templates aren't for everyone, right? Right? Because it makes sense to me in my workflow and how I build them. But and I actually spend the time and go over a lot of stuff with customers quite a bit. We show them how to build these, right? And build little reusable widgets and stuff like that, and how I do my page templates, because I make a page template and it's reused for everything. Mm-hmm. Need a new page? Drag and drop the page template into the pages folder, rename it, right?
Yep.
Cool deal. Appreciate the time, guys.
I just really want to say that, since we've really connected on LinkedIn, you and I have even gotten closer, I think, even personally too. Sometimes we just don't talk about just work. I really think that you're a great person, and what you're doing for this industry, is nothing short of extraordinary. And it's visionaries like you that are gonna keep it going. So I really do appreciate everything that you've done so far.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys, man, for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, yeah, thanks for your time.
Yep,
I think hopefully we shared something today that makes some people's lives a little easier and figure things out faster.
Worst case scenario, hop online, get on my website and chat with me. It's an AI-free zone. In fact, when you click on that chat bubble, it says "Talk to a human for a change."
Talk to a human for a change. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you never know. I'll shoot a Teams meeting and walk you through some stuff. Do it all the time.
All right. Yeah.
Well, cool. Take them up on it.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too, Louis. Have a great one. All right, and that's all we have for this episode. Remember to stay curious and PX and Poo. Until next time, I'm Charles.
And I'm Matthew.
And this has been It's a Controls Problem.
Dude, you dropped a Falcon's crest.
Yep, yes I did.
Deep cut.